Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys my opinion on the best junglers for patch 6.8. So first up, I have Xinyan. Xinyan is probably one of the best Devour junglers in the game right now, in my opinion. He's got pretty good ganks in the early game, which you don't see from a lot of the Devour junglers. Most of the Devour junglers are farm-only junglers, like Master Yi, Shyvana. They just sit in the jungle and they farm till they get their Devour item. But Xinyan, he does have really good ganks because he's got the slow on his E, which is also a gap closer, and then he's got the knockup from his Q. So once you hit level 3 as Xinyan, that you can definitely pull off some very successful ganks. He does also stay very healthy in the jungle because of his W, and he is pretty strong at all stages of the game. His early game is pretty good. Once he gets to the Devour stack, then his mid game is really strong as well. And he is one of the better dueling champions in the game, especially once he does get that Devour stacked. One con to Xin is that he can get kited pretty easily when his E is on cooldown. Next up, I have Nidalee. So Nidalee is definitely one of the best early game junglers right now. She is a champion who does take a lot of skill to play, but once you get Nidalee down and once you can hit your spear consistently, then she can definitely be one of the strongest picks for solo queue. I would recommend playing her in normal games first before heading into ranked. There are definitely some junglers where you can head right into ranked with them and do pretty well, like Volibear or Master Yi or Shyvana, but I don't think Nidalee is one of those junglers. You want to make sure that you can hit your Q consistently when you're ganking as her, because if you can hit your Q, then you can follow that up with a ton of damage from your Cougar form. But if you can't hit your Q, then her ganks are honestly some of the worst, maybe even the worst in the game. So I would play her in normal games first and then head into ranked with her. She does have really good poke too. If you get ahead with Nidalee, then you can just look to siege down towers, poke with your Q, and then just end up taking towers that way. She does also have her heal, which once you do get a few AP items on Nidalee, your heal starts to heal for a lot. So you can just keep your AD carry really healthy in team fights or any of your teammates that do get low on HP. And she also does have the vision with her W, so when you're playing as Nidalee, look to go for some invades in the enemy jungle, plant some traps down, because whenever the enemies do run over your W, then you are going to gain the vision on them. And sure, her mobility is probably the best for any jungler in the game because she's got her W in Cougar form, which she can use to pounce around, and then she also does have her passive, which allows her to move faster in brush. And a few cons to Nidalee though are that she is a very squishy jungler. Early on in the game, once you do get to mid to late game, then when I'm playing Nidalee, I do like to go 1 or 2 tank items on her, but early game she is definitely one of the squishier junglers, and she is very skill shot reliant as well with her Q, which I touched on earlier in the video. Next up, I have Shyvana. So Shyvana is a very easy jungler to play. She's kind of the opposite of Nidalee. She's a jungler where you just want to farm in the early game, get your stacks on your Devour, and then come out in the mid game and just start dealing a ton of damage while also being able to soak a lot of damage, because you are going to build a few tank items on Shyvana once you do get to mid to late game. She does have really good early game clear speeds because of her W. She does have the auto attack reset on her Q too, so make sure you are using that when you are farming the jungle to just clear the jungle out a little bit quicker. She's a very good dueling champion too, which most of the Devour junglers are, and she is one of the stronger tower pushers in the game because she does have that auto attack reset on her Q. Her mobility with her W allows her to gank somewhat effectively. Like, her ganks aren't that strong, but her W does allow her to come up from behind them, and if she does go chilling smite, then she can pull off some decent ganks in the early game. And she does also have one of the stronger late games for any champion. You really only need Devour and Blade on Shyvana, and then after that you go full tank and you can just absolutely dive the back line and just tank a lot of damage while still being able to basically one-shot the enemy AD carry. And a few cons to Shyvana are that her early game presence isn't as strong as some of the other junglers on my list. She definitely can pull off some successful ganks in the early game, but she does not have a gap closer and she does not have a long range CC ability, so unless you do get behind your opponents, then your ganks are definitely going to be a little bit lackluster. And she also can get kited pretty easily in team fights when her ultimate is on cooldown. Next up, I have a Moo Moo. So right now, a Moo Moo is my go-to jungler. He's pretty much got hands down the best team fight in the game for any jungler. His ultimate just provides really strong AoE crowd control, and he also does have the long range engage with his Q, which just allows him to be very successful in mid to late game team fights. If you can land that bandage toss on the enemy AD carry or mid laner, and then follow that up with your ultimate, you basically just won your team that team fight. And if you need to and you have your flash up, you can look for like flash alts and you can get like 5-man AoE alts off with a Moo Moo. So I think that as long as you can survive the early game with this champion and you can get to mid to late game team fights, then he is one of the strongest jungle picks in the game. He does have really good clear speeds in the jungle too, because he does have the AoE damage from his W and his E. And one con to Moo Moo is that he does not have an escape, so when you are playing him in the early game, if you're going up against a good early game jungler like a Lee Sin, a Rengar, or a Kha'Zix, just start your buff. Don't start one of the mini camps, because that'll just allow you to minimize the chances of getting invaded on and falling behind in the early game. To round out my top 5 for this patch, I have Kindred. So right now, Kindred is probably the best jungler in the game. You could argue that a Moo Moo may be a little bit better than her, but I think that if Kindred is played correctly, she can definitely be a very successful pick. She is a ranged jungler, so she does have the advantage on most of the other junglers in the game. I'm pretty sure she is the only ranged jungler. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below, but that just allows her to stay a lot safer in team fights, and she does have her Q, which allows her to kite really nicely. If she can end up getting the enemies in her W, where her Q becomes a 2 or 3 second cooldown, then she can just end up kiting them around and being very successful that way. She does have really good mobility with her Q. Her clear speeds in the jungle are also pretty good because she does have AoE damage coming out of her Q, and then she also does have her E, which allows her to chunk down the large monster in the camp really nicely. Her ultimate is also a very strong ability if used correctly. If you find yourself getting caught out, or if you end up getting behind in a team fight, then you can just use your ultimate on yourself, and a good placed, or I guess you can't place it anymore because it only works on Kindred, but a well-timed Kindred ultimate can definitely end up changing the momentum of a fight. She does scale really well into the late game too, because her passive, whenever you do get a passive stack, then you're going to get bonus percentage health damage, so that just allows her to deal a lot more damage as the game goes on. And a few cons to Kindred though are that she is a pretty squishy jungler, so if your team is lacking tank, then I wouldn't pick her in that situation. I would pick someone like an Moo Moo or a Shyvana, and she also does not have the strongest CC for any jungler either. First up on the honorable mentions, I have Echo. So in my opinion, Echo is still a really viable pick, even though he did get nerfed this patch. I think that if Echo can be played correctly, he is one of the strongest jungle picks in the game. The fact that his W is an AoE stun allows him to pull off really successful ganks in the early game if he can hit that, and then in mid to late game team fights, if he can get a nice AoE W off in one of those team fights, he can just end up winning that for his team. So I think that even though Echo did get nerfed, just because he does have a really strong kit, they're gonna have to nerf him more for people to stop picking him. Next up, I have Shaco. So Shaco is one of the best early game jungle champions in the game. If you do run Ignite on Shaco, which I would recommend doing, you can pull off some nice level 2 ganks with him. So you just gotta make sure that you do take advantage of Shaco's strong early game, because if you don't, then you are going to get outscaled pretty easily by a lot of the other junglers in the game. Next up is Volibear. So Volibear actually has the second highest win rate in the game right now for any jungler. He's always been a jungler though who I have never really liked, just because I feel like I'm always getting kited when I'm playing Volibear in mid to late game team fights. If the enemy team does lock a strong kiting champion like a Vayne for example, it's going to be really hard for him to deal with that Vayne in mid to late game team fights, and you're probably just going to end up getting kited to death most of the time. So if if the enemy team doesn't have a strong CC comp, then I would definitely pick him in that situation. He does have a very high win rate right now, so obviously he is a pretty good pick, but I try to stay away from him just because I really don't like that he can get kited pretty easily. Next up, I have Warwick. So Warwick is one of the strongest junglers when it comes to ganking at level 6. His ultimate just allows him to pretty much pick up a free kill wherever he does gank once he does have that ability ready. So when you are playing Warwick, make sure you are using your ultimate whenever it's off cooldown. It's a very strong ability. You want to make sure you're taking advantage of that, and also use your ultimate on the high priority target in team fights. Don't go ulting the support because they're on low HP and you're going to pick up the kill on them. You want to make sure that you're using your ultimate on the right target, because if you can do that, then you're basically guaranteed to win the fight if your team is either ahead or if you're even. So if you play Warwick correctly, which is pretty easy to do, then he can definitely be a very strong pick. Next, I have Jax. I think that Jax is a pretty solid Sated Devourer jungler. I do think that Shyvana and Xinyan are a little bit better than him though, just because he doesn't have the strongest clear speeds in the early game. He does have pretty good ganks though, so when you are playing as Jax, don't just sit and farm the jungle the whole time. Look to get some ganks off in the early game, because you do have the gap closer on your Q and you also have the stun from your E. And last but not least, on the honorable mentions for this patch, I have Vi. So Vi is a pretty strong all-around jungler. She does have pretty good early game ganks with her Q. Her level 6 ganks are also some of the best in the game because she does have the nice lockdown with her ultimate, and she can land both of her CC abilities, being her Q and her ult at level 6, then she is pretty much guaranteed to pick up a kill wherever she does gank. The one thing I dislike about Vi though is that once you go in with her, there's no getting out. So when you do play Vi, make sure you ping your team when you are going in, or make sure that your team is going to follow up when you engage, because even though you may find a nice pick on the enemy 80 carry with your ultimate, if your team doesn't follow up, then you are just going to get bursted down really easily. So as long as you communicate with your team when you're playing as Vi, then she can be a very good pick. So that's going to be it for the video, guys. If you did enjoy, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you have not already, because I am going to be pumping out a lot more content in these upcoming months. I'm looking to make 4 or 5 videos a week now, so there definitely will be a lot more content on the channel. So thanks for watching, guys. Have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.